So the second most often question I get asked these days is, how do you become an astronaut? The first being, how do you pee in space? So the first one's pretty easy, the same way you do on Earth, except when you aim for a big or a big porcelain bowl, you just aim for a little cup with some suction on it to get it in, and you got to make sure you clean up after yourself. It's very rude to leave that stuff floating around in the space station. The second one, I had no idea. A year and a half ago, I had no clue how to become an astronaut. I thought it was just like you saw in the Big Bang Theory when NASA calls you up and says, hey, we want you to go up to space. So I just, went around my regular day being prepared in case they ever called. And sure enough, last June they did. The Canadian Space Agency put out a tweet and said they're hiring 2 new astronauts. And that's when I knew how to become an astronaut. So this story starts with medical. I was heading into Downsview Air Base for my physical. I was down to the top 100. I had applied and spent all summer getting ready. I read Hadfield's book. I met Hadfield in person. I met Jeremy Hansen, and I even enlisted my uncle to talk to Mark Garneau to try to get some advice. None of them could help me. They were all part of the selection committee, but I tried nonetheless. So there I am heading into the air base, and I see an airman. He's got a pack on his back, and he's got his hands filled with gloves, and he dropped his credit card, so I bent over and picked it up and went on my merry way down the hall for a medical that I had no idea what was going to happen. I watched the video from 2009 when they selected the last 2 astronauts in Canada, and I thought they were going to put us through the paces. We were going to get an MRI, we were going to get a CT scan, the whole gambit of it. So I was prepared for all of that. Turned out to be just turn your head and cough, take some blood, check your blood pressure, that sort of thing. The fun part of the day, though, was getting to meet some of the other candidates. There was three others there at the same time as me, and I hadn't met any of them yet, so I had no idea what the competition was like. I went home. I was very excited about what had happened. I told my wife all about it, and she started, her smile started to grow a little bit. She said, "Have you thought of it yet, Alex?" I said, "No." I said, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "Remember you told me in Hadfield's book, it said that you're always being watched?" She goes, "Don't you think one of them was a plant?" And I thought about it. I got more and more excited. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. I picked up that guy's credit card. I shook all their hands at the end of the day. I wished them all luck, and hopefully I'd see them in the next rounds to come. I don't think any of them was, but I wouldn't put it past the space agency. This is selection to be an astronaut, after all. So the next few weeks passed. Excuse me. The next few weeks passed, and we were getting close to Christmas, and we got a note from the space agency that said, the next round is going to be very physical. Here's some exercises you might want to do. Also, here's what you're going to be tested in the pool on. So I upped my gym routine. I was going every day, and I picked up at the pool, and I kept going and practicing exactly what they told us to. And then Christmas rolled around, and they had told us just before that we were going to find out in late January if we had made the next round or not. So Christmas comes along, and my wife and I were on pins and needles. We're excited to find out about the next round, and then bam. Boxing Day comes, and so does my firstborn son. As you can imagine, being a new father, there's only two ways I could sleep. One, if he was on top of me, or 2, if he was with my wife. Other than that, I was checking the crib every 3 minutes to make sure he was safe and breathing. That doesn't go so well with training every day. Going to the gym every day didn't happen for the month of January, but it was okay. I had prepared for that. We knew he was coming, and I went to the gym a lot beforehand so that I could miss a few weeks. And sure enough, I got the call from the space agency. "Congratulations, Alex, you're in the top 72. Pack your bags, you're going to Quebec." So off I went to Quebec. We were there for about 3-4 days, and we were tested from 6 a.m. in the morning until about 10 o'clock at night. They'd pick us up. We were staying in the Army barracks where they do the basic training for the Canadian Forces. We were tested on everything. We did the beep test, so we run from that point to that point within the beeps, and then the beep goes again, you have to run back, and the beeps get closer and closer until you can't make it anymore. I made it to about level 10, I think it was. In training at home, I could make it to about 11 and 12, so I was a little ticked at myself for not doing so well, but that was all right. I came out of it with a big smile on my face. My favorite was the swimming. Swim 250 meters in under 10 minutes, tread water for 10 minutes, and then swim 15 meters underwater. I aced it no problem. I was a little slower than I was in practice, but then again, in practice, that was all I did that day. Prior to swimming, I had done a minute of cleans. So you pick up a sandbag as fast as you can and drop it as fast as you can. And then I had to drag stuff. I had to pick other things up. I had to do a hand cycle. So I was pretty tired going into the pool. One of the memories I have, though, that I really enjoyed was after the pool, we were sitting on the bench while other people were participating, And I was sitting next to one of the other candidates, and he was a little down. So I said to him, I said, what's going on? He said, oh, I didn't do so well. And I looked at him, I said, do you realize where you are? And he kind of looked at me, I said, you're at astronaut tryouts. No matter how you do here, you made it to astronaut tryouts. And so he got a little excited, and he pumped himself up, and he was pretty good the rest of the week. We got to work together on a few different things, make some videos, and we're still friends to this day. So that was the round of 72. As I said, we were in Quebec. We stayed in the Army barracks. And then they sent us home, and they told us how many people they were going to select the next time, but they said, that's the maximum we're going to select. We're really only pursuing the people that we think we will hire for the job. So I went home, and I knew the next round was going to be survival training. I knew this because I watched the videos from last time, and I got to talk to some of the guys who had been there last time. They were in my group in Quebec. So I convinced the Milton Fire Department to put me through some training. So they took me up to the fire hall and set up 3 different scenarios for me on 3 different evenings. The first being a confined space rescue scenario, the second being a chemical spill rescue scenario, and the third being a rope ascent and descent rescue scenario. My favorite one was the first one because you go in this little box, you're wearing all of the bunker gear, you got your helmet on and your scuba gear on in the back and everything, and the box, you don't fit in it, but you've got to go. You got to get there. They're yelling, they're screaming at you, get in there, Delorey, you got to save the person, get in there, and you put your head in and you don't fit. And all you can feel is the room getting tighter and tighter. So I kneeled back up, I said, I can't fit. They said, what do you do to fit? So I took off the scuba, threw it through, and I went through no problem. Turns out that helped me a little bit when I was called to a round of 32, and we went off to Halifax for survival training, or survival testing, I should say. Halifax was a bit shorter. We only stayed there for 2.5 days. We got to stay on the HMCS Kingston, which is pretty cool. You're in a bunker with 3 other men. The room's about the size of this carpet. So you take your turns getting changed and all that good stuff. So the first day was survival training with fire and water. They threw you in a room, the room was on fire, put out the fires. They threw you in a room, there was giant gaping holes in the wall, try to plug the holes. They threw you in another room, there's another fire, put out the fire. They threw you in another room and the water's leaking from the ceiling pipes, 8-inch pipes. Of course, this water's from the harbor in Halifax in April, so it's not exactly warm. And they're just testing you to see how you do. You know, they want to see how you react. You can't actually put out the fires. You can't actually plug the holes. But they want to make sure that you can work with the people you're in there with and that in a stressful situation you don't just break down. The next day was fun as well. It was my favorite, actually. It started off with walk off this plank about 8 meters, fall into the simulated ocean that has about 4 feet high waves, swim around the buoys and get in the lifeboat. So I was all excited. You go in one at a time, and I get to the door. I know I'm up next. They're like, all right, Delorey, you're in. So I walked in, turned left, and kept on walking straight past the ladder. And then somebody comes and grabs me and said, Alex, you went the wrong way, go up here. So I'm climbing up, and there's the lead instructor. I get up there, he goes, Alex, do you not want to do this? I said, no, this is what I've been waiting for. So he stands there, and he says, okay, when I say go, you go. And I'm standing here, and he's standing here with the whistle, the timer, sorry. And he goes, steady, steady, steady. And I'm, just say go. And he finally says go, and off I go, and I swim around the buoys, and I get in the lifeboat, no problem at all. And then we went through another few scenarios with a mock-up helicopter where they turned it into a mock-up spaceship, dropped it down. Everybody has a role, and you have to get out safely. That was a lot of fun, and I actually got to work with Josh, who actually is selected as one of Canada's next 2 astronauts. So it was really cool for that. And he's also an ex-Canadian, or he's current Canadian fighter pilot, so he's kind of the dream guy for me too. So we go through all that all day with a couple other tests, some dexterity tests and things like that. And then came the big one at the end of the day. Get in the mock-up helicopter. The guys are in front of you explaining what's going to happen. You just twist your seatbelt like this and you pop out. Okay, good. Drop, flip, under. Get out as fast as you can. And I figured this was going to come because of the video they had from 2009, and I was so excited for it. And they go in, and then I popped out, and then they take me to the back room for the post-interview. They said, how'd you like that, Alex? I said, actually, I'm disappointed. They said, why? I go, it was only 6 seconds. I wanted it to be like 30 seconds. It really wasn't that challenging for the people in the room, but you know, we had all prepared and trained for that type of stuff. So at the end of Halifax, we had our post-exit or pre-exit interview with the team, and they explained we can take a maximum of 20 people to the next round. I said, okay, good. So we go home and we wait and we wait. And in this one, I knew that they were going to do some presentations with some grade 6 classes. So I called all my teacher friends. I got all the advice I could, and I went to a high school. I went to a couple grade 6 classes. I did some Sparks and some Cubs talks, everything I could do to try to experience all the weird questions that these kids would ask, like, how do you pee in space? So then I get the call, Alex, come on to Montreal for the final round. So I was like, all right, great. So we show up, and we're all there beforehand. We're getting to know each other pretty good now. You know, we spent time together. And so we're chatting and chatting. We're adding up the numbers, talking about who's there, and we realized there's not 20, like they had told us the maximum could be, that they only brought 17, which really struck home. That meant it's getting serious, because they've been saying all along, we're only bringing the ones that we think we can hire. And so it meant they weren't just dragging people along for the fun of it. It meant I could be an astronaut. So Montreal wasn't as exciting. You know, the good part about it was that we got to spend more time as candidates together, get to know each and every one quite a bit better. The cruel part that they did, though, was they sized us all up for the jumpsuits. So there's 15 of us now that have our dimensions for the jumpsuit to go up in the Soyuz that don't get to wear it yet. At the end of it, we all went home, and we knew there was one more week actually to come, the medical. So we're all chatting back and forth to see if they were going to bring all 17 of us back or not. We have no idea what they're actually going to do. And sure enough, they invited all 17 of us back to Toronto for a week in the medical. And this was the scary week. And I said this to everybody. I said, you know, I'm nervous of this one. Why, Alex? Why? I said, because you don't know what you don't know. I've never had an MRI. I've never had a CT, all that good stuff. And I've heard all the horror stories. Last time they selected the astronauts, somebody had a golf ball-sized tumor in his head, and they found it and saved his life, but that meant he couldn't be an astronaut. Other small issues like your cataracts or your veins in your eyes are too small, washed people out. So obviously, I was nervous for this. There was nothing I could do much at this point. I'm just a little over 30 now. All my life is going to accumulate, and they're going to find whatever they find. So we spent the week there. The very first day that we were there, I had a Holter on to monitor my heart for 24 hours. And of course, that's the day they haul us all out in front of the press, make us stand up there and try not to look nervous, and then they haul us all off into individual interviews with the press and things like that. So I can just imagine what my Holter was telling them that day. They ran the gambit that week from MRIs on your head, CT scan on your chest, abdominal ultrasounds. They did echo Doppler, psych evaluations, all that good stuff, head to toe. I can tell you for a fact right now, I'm not going to die for the next 2 years of natural causes. But this journey ended, I guess, with a meeting. There was 6 world-class flight surgeons. I got called in. We were all sitting in a room waiting for our chance to go in. They called us alphabetically. So I got called in, and they cut right to it. They said, Alex, we think we saw a kidney stone. We did see a small tumor on your left parotid gland. Unfortunately, you're out, and you should go seek some medical advice. Obviously, I was devastated. I spent a year and a half. My wife was invested. My friends were invested. The communities behind me, they were all invested. I was upset. However, I was excited. I got so far and so close, and I've got 2 friends now that I can call, I have 2 astronauts now that I call very close friends, and we keep in contact still every day. Since then, I've had the CT scans, I've had the ultrasounds and things like that done. I have no kidney stones, so that's no problem, and the small lump that they found is benign, so I'm going to get that nipped out. And next time they call for astronauts, guess whose name's going to be first on the list? It's been a year of lessons. You know, it was a lot of fun. I had no idea what I was getting into at the start, and I still don't know where I'm going at the end. But every day I wake up, I try to be a better father than I was yesterday, try to be a better husband than I was yesterday, and I work on my new goals, which are, what can I do to be a better astronaut next time they call? So thank you very much for having me. I hope everybody takes the lesson of, be prepared for today, for what can happen tomorrow, and chase your dreams wherever they take you.